So one of the pages was missing, so hopefully nothing too important happened on that. It was the end of a chapter. I was like, it'll be fine.
It was probably just, some big consequential mental shift or emotional breakthrough.
I figured it wouldn't matter as long as, I figure you could tell by, the next section, Hello, everybody, and welcome to Book Retorts. I'm Danielle.
I'm Sam.
This is a podcast where one of us explains a weird piece of media to the other who has no experience with it.
That's right, Danielle. I have no experience with it. I'm like the cabin boy on a pirate ship. Not quite sure what I'm going to do with this, but I'm here to learn.
Okay. I'm glad it wasn't another spring animal. Sometimes you go animal heavy.
Well, baby animals are cute, Danielle, and they bring in the clicks.
They do. Yes, people listen to our podcast episodes for the baby animals.
Wouldn't you?
That's why we talk about kittens so frequently.
I figured that was the reason. Why else? It's all about that search engine optimization, right? Oh, please like us.
Right. Anyway, today, Sam, what are we doing?
Oh, I can only assume we're doing the voice on the radio.
We are doing the voice on the radio by Carolyn B. Cooney.
That's her name, yeah.
Yeah, it's a third in the, Janie series, Whatever Happened to Janie, Face on the Milk Carton.
Jenny?
Jenny.
Which one is it? I forget.
It's Janie. This book is more specific about it being Janie, which is helpful.
Okay, great. We'll stick with Janie from now on.
Wonderful. This is the third in that series. It was done in 1996, just so we have a good timeline for everything that's happening here.
What else? Wasn't there a big famous movie that came out in 96?
I'm sure there were a lot of famous movies that came out in all of the years.
Just fun to imagine what you could have been doing with your time in 96 besides reading this book.
I might have been reading this book in 1996.
I know. And I'm saying, you could have used your time much better.
All right. Anyway, so, are you ready? You ready for this, Sam?
Sure. What are we going to do? Just going to go right into it?
We are going to go right into it.
You're not going to do any summary?
I really don't think you need a summary for this one because
I feel like it'll... what happened in the last one?
It'll ruin what's going to happen in this. And yes, you can absolutely summarize what happened in the last one.
I can do one sentence.
Do it.
Janie went to live with her family in a truly atrocious, must sever ties with her previous life way. She was angsty about it, and eventually they decided that was a bad idea. The end.
That summarizes whatever happened to Janie.
Yeah, all right. They had a really terrible decision. They spent the whole book thinking about how terrible it was, how bad it was for Janie, and then they reversed that decision later. And we never got to see the prom.
That's true. Reeve, her boyfriend, invited her to prom. She's living in New Jersey, but invited her to prom in Connecticut, and we never got to see how that resolved.
Way to, dangle it in front of us. Terrible.
Yeah, I have bad news for you, Sam.
No prom?
No prom.
Is there any Reeve in this book, even?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of Reeve in this book.
Finally, because up to this point, Janie and Reeve's relationship has been entirely perfunctory. It seems like she just threw it in there because every teen book needs some kind of romance in there somewhere.
Well, perfect. If you're craving more of Reeve, please tune in to The Voice on the Radio.
I don't know if I'm craving more of Reeve, because he is so far basically just an uncarved block of wood in my mind.
Well, you get to learn more about him in this episode.
Perfect. Is he a radio DJ in this episode?
Maybe. You'll find out very quickly.
Great. All right. Let's hear it.
Wonderful. And just a reminder for our tuning in audience here that Janie was kidnapped at the age of 3.
Kind of.
Sort of, by her
I wish you could
sister?
accidentally kidnap.
She's accidentally kidnapped by a woman in a cult. I think that's all you need to know. And she's grown up with these people who thought they were her grandparents, but...
Also, this is all an assumption. There has been absolutely no evidence presented to confirm this theory. This is all assumption that they've made about this poor, cold-mind-addled woman.
I would hope at some point the FBI did some kind of DNA testing to confirm the truth of this.
Even if she is the same person who was kidnapped, we still don't know how or why. They're making a lot of assumptions about the motivations and the means.
That's true. We don't have any proof that she was actually kidnapped by Hannah.
By Hannah. Maybe she was kidnapped by someone else in the cult and ended up with Hannah. Maybe Hannah kidnapped her maliciously, not by accident. Maybe, she hid in the back of Hannah's car and she found out later. We have no idea how this happened.
Yes, but according to this book, That's what went down. So, we open up this book, as all good books set in the 90s open up with an email.
Narration.
No, an email.
Right. This book really sort of this series really straddled the email era.
Yeah, email. Well, they don't get text messages because it's 96, but, they kind of just maybe have phones. I don't know. So Reeve has been in college for 39 days. There was no prom. I'm sorry. We don't
40
get to see
whole days almost. He's practically graduated.
Yeah, and Janie over here has 599 days before she graduates, so she's got a hot minute.
Are they counting the days until she...
They just separated a month and a half ago, Sam. They're teenagers.
Yeah, whatever.
And she tells them in the email that she has THSD, which is terminal high school disease, and the only cure is Reeve.
Boo! Teenagers suck.
Teenagers are dumb.
I say this fully aware I was definitely a terrible teenager.
I did roll my eyes real hard, though.
No, 100% lame. And we say love. Because we want you to be better. We want you not to suffer the way we suffered. We look back at ourselves and we cringe. We want you to avoid that. This is for your own good.
Yeah, don't send these emails. So Reeve writes back that he can't come and get her until he's rich and famous, because she wants to escape from school. And in 1 hour, he's going to be a real live DJ and on a live radio station. So he's beginning his journey. Yay for Reeve.
So his genius plan is got rich and famous as a radio DJ in the mid to late 90s.
I mean, I just think this is the path he's fallen into that he's very excited about.
Yeah, radio. Really, really the future at that point of time. Really going to be around forever. Really going to be a real cash cow. Well, no one's going to get their music in any other way in, say, 1997.
We can't see the future, Sam, okay?
Right, I just love that he's yeah, radio DJ. That's me. Also, college radio. Great start. That's really going to be the launch pad for many radio careers.
You got to put your foot in the door somehow.
Fair enough. What do I know about being a radio DJ?
Nothing.
Maybe he's going to be the next Dr. Demento or whatever.
He might be. So we enter into Reeve's head. We get to switch back and forth a lot between characters here. We go into Reeve's head.
I'm so horny for radio. I mean Janie. I mean radio.
A little bit.
Really conflicted.
So he's panicking. He's completely gotten mic fright. He's in the radio station and he's got the mic in front of him. He's supposed to be saying something and he has no idea what he's supposed to say. And it's live on air. Danielle,
quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Is mic fright different than stage fright or did you just make that name up because it sounds cool?
That's what she calls it in the book.
Okay, great. I thought it was all the same idea that performance anxiety is stage fright.
Called stage fright. Nope. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's a term that DJs use. I don't know, Sam. Listeners.
If you're a radio DJ and you get mic fright, let us know if that's a real term or not. We'd love to hear about it.
We clearly don't have mic fright.
Well, it helps that we are not live.
That does help, but I still don't think we get mic fright.
That's probably true.
We're chatty.
Yeah, okay, sure. We will never test this premise, probably.
No, we won't. I'm sorry. We're not going to do a live episode, more than likely.
Unless you want to pay us a lot of money to go on tour and, play stadiums, we're not going to happen.
Anyway.
Could you imagine this show in a stadium arena? It'd be awful.
4 hours long.
And everyone would be like, what are we doing here? These tickets were not worth it. Ticketmaster, darn you for your scalping.
I think the people who would pay for those tickets already would appreciate listening to us, but it would be a really long episode, and we're sorry about that in advance.
4 people in a giant stadium. That'd be amazing. Just like our parents.
There'd be more if we just invited all our friends and listeners.
Yeah, they would not come.
We could pay them.
We're going to lose money on this stadium tour?
Why would we be on a stadium tour if more people aren't going to listen to us?
Because of our hubris, Danielle. Our dehumidifier broke.
Oh, we personally went out and got a stadium for this.
Yeah, we this is going to be great. We're going to book this. We're going to get the whole marketing campaign. We're going to make millions.
Work.
Danielle, please. I think I know a little something about how stadium works due to my extensive experience having never been to stadiums.
I've been to more stadiums than you.
Oh, 100%. Definitely you have.
All right. I don't think that's how stadiums work. Anyway, Reeve. Back to Reeve.
All right, this guy who's not playing stadiums, he's getting mic fright in a booth.
But he might one day. He's always loved radio, but had walked into the college radio station only because the freshman dorm had made him nervous and his roommate kind of sucked. And now he's in this college radio station.
Is he going to be like a shock jock?
No, we'll get into it, Sam.
Okay.
In detail.
Okay, great. Can't wait to hear about what style of radio DJ from the 90s is Reeve.
He found that he loved volunteering at the radio station, and
This is all 40 days, right?
Yeah, so he's been, this goes very quickly. So he started, they let him do like kind of a late night hour, like a 2 or 3 a.m. or something like that, and then he was doing well enough at it that they let him kind of sub in for another DJ that was there and get like kind of a primetime spot. So this is his trial run for a primetime spot.
Okay, so he's basically doing a dry run to see if he can get a primetime spot, and he's blowing it big time.
Well, so far, I mean, it's only like a few seconds into it, but he doesn't know what he's supposed to talk about.
Danielle, you can never have dead air on the radio. That's just
I know, he's freaking out about it. He's like, oh my God, I'm going to have dead air. And that's what just, it's like you're getting his like millisecond thoughts as this is happening.
We're going the slow-mo instant replay of Reeve freaking out.
You're getting the slow-mo version of this. So the experienced DJ that's in the booth with him is the one he's taking over the spot for. He's giving him a hard time, offering to take over for him. Like, if you can't do it, I can do it for you. And Derek is his name. He finally suggests that Reeve comes up with a topic he can run with, or maybe he'll get lucky and get a call in that he can run with instead.
So,
which seems
even
obvious.
though it's supposed to be like super slow motion, there's been enough time for Derek to both taunt and then suggest a solution.
I think he puts on a song so that he can have a minute to figure out what he's going to talk about.
Let's spin those discs while we listen to what do kids listen to? Hootie and the Blowfish.
No,
whatever. I don't know.
It's Something Assassins. I might have it in here. Something Assassins. We'll get into it because they're not important, but they play a minor role.
The Assassins, are they a real band?
No, they're like a college band.
Oh, okay.
Here in this world that she's creating. Okay, so meanwhile, Janie and her friend Sarah Charlotte are looking at wedding magazines because, she's 16. She's had wedding dreams ever since she saw him in a tux at prom senior year. Hey-o.
We don't get to see prom!
I know, so sad. How did that work out with those crazy kids? She also thinks she's going to keep house on a yacht, so, keeping those dreams alive.
She's going to live on a yacht?
I guess so.
Living on a yacht sucks.
Well,
I mean, I've never lived on a yacht, but, I don't know. It sounds just like a saltier, more high-maintenance house that gets you seasick.
I mean, maybe. I know someone who lived on a boat for several years. They seem fine with it.
I'm happy that people can live on boats. I really am. I'm just saying, I don't know if that's, the dream for most teenage girls.
Well, in her fantasy that she was creating, she was fine with living on a yacht.
All right, fine.
Her friend, Sarah Charlotte, asks her, that is her name,
Wait,
right?
Are you saying her friend is named Sir Charlotte?
No, her friend is named Sarah Charlotte.
Oh, Sarah Charlotte.
Yeah, Sarah-Charlotte.
Of course.
She insists on going by her full name. We talked about the names in this, Sam.
Freaking wasps.
Her name is Sarah Charlotte. That's what she goes by. And she asks Janie which of her fathers is going to walk her down the aisle.
Both of them.
Yeah, Janie says she could do both, one on each arm. She's kind of started to become fond of her New Jersey dad.
Well, I'm glad she's no longer, traumatized as much.
Yeah. This is a good book for that, Sam. They have some, peace, which is nice.
Yeah.
So Sarah Charlotte asks her what's going on with the New Jersey situation. The kids have visited, but the parents haven't really worked themselves up to visiting yet. She's visited them, I think, in New Jersey, but they feel uncomfortable being in Connecticut with the other family.
Okay.
Which kind of makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
But she kind of hates talking about it, Janie does, so she's sort of trying to get out of this conversation as it's happening. She apparently, if she says anything negative about the situation, her family insists that she goes to counseling, which is good. As we talked about previously, that somebody finally mentioned counseling of some kind.
Also, it shouldn't be a punishment. It should be you should go to counseling regardless.
Yeah, she should continuously probably be in counseling during this entire experience, but no, it's apparently just if she's expressing anything negative, she goes to counseling. So yes, it does kind of become punishment. She hates counseling, Sam.
That's wild.
I know, it's really sad. She either needs a better counselor or she needs a better family dynamic around counseling.
Both.
Or both. So Janie says New Jersey isn't as important as Boston, because that's where Reeve lives. And Sarah Charlotte asks if he's still faxing her every day.
Faxing? Boo! Also, what school is he going to in Boston?
Just some kind of made-up college, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought he was, not so bright, he was worried about getting to college. I was like, he's not going to MIT or something, right?
I think it's more that he just didn't apply himself. No, he's not going to MIT, but I think that last year of school, he really pushed his grades and he got A's through all of it, and he managed to get to a decent enough college.
Fair enough.
So it's in Boston somewhere. It's a small school, or smaller school, and I guess he hasn't been faxing every day. He started strong, but now it's more like emails and calls or Hallmark cards.
Hallmark cards?
Yeah, that's what she says.
Terrible. What a lame thing to write your girlfriend, sorry.
Well, she likes getting them, Sam. That's what matters. She's 16.
Also, why is a fax somehow superior to email?
I don't know.
Like, he's not faxing now, he's just doing email, which is way less, like,
or
it's the same
calls.
information. Yeah, like, what?
She makes it sound like the fax is the be-all, end-all, and now he's only emailing, calling. Isn't that just the worst?
Faxes, much like this DJ career, they're never going away.
Oh, gosh. Faxes are predominantly used in healthcare now. In some offices, I'm sure.
And other industries that are unable or unwilling to move with the times.
Oh, man, it's a thing. So,
yeah, I know.
She wants to visit, but she's not convinced that, like, either of her parents are going to let her stay for longer than a day. You know, obviously, she's not going to be able to sleep overnight in Boston.
Right.
So, back in the radio station, Reeve is digging through his mind for a talk bit, but is coming up blank, and he's obviously still panicking in this very long situation, his 2-minute song.
I would suggest a topic for Reeve, but we know literally nothing about him. His mind is an enigma to us. He has no interests that I'm aware of, besides Janie, and maybe bodybuilding a little bit.
Yeah, he was really into his muscles for a while.
Was he on the football team? I forget.
I do not recall, I'll be honest.
Wasn't like Janie a cheerleader and he was on the football team?
No, Janie wasn't a cheerleader, I don't think.
Who am I thinking of then?
I don't know. I don't think she was.
All right. Well, that was a different book that you had where you had a character who was a cheerleader.
Probably, yeah. So like I said, he's been doing pretty well at the 3 a.m. slot, and this is the first time he's kind of blanked while it's just the pressure of the idea that people are actually listening as opposed to 3 a.m. when people are not listening to the radio.
Probably. Then why even have it on is the question.
I don't know. So finally he opens his mouth and he says the phrase, "Once upon a time."
No.
And the other
instantly cut off.
And the other DJ and the people at the station look up from their work and start to laugh at him.
Yeah. Reasonable. That is the correct reaction. I mean, I'm not for generally shaming people and like ostracizing them, but Reeve, my dude, you gotta work with me here.
Well, suddenly he has an idea, Sam.
If he tells fairy tales, I'll be upset.
Nope. He says, "Once upon a time." He goes, "I dated a dizzy redhead. Dizzy is a compliment. Janie was light and air, like hope and joy."
Is he going to tell Janie's kidnap story on the radio without her consent?
I'm not going to tell you, but you'll find out very shortly whether or not that's true.
Reeve's a monster. Holy. And he starts out by saying, "I dated a dizzy redhead?"
He's a compliment. He said it was a compliment.
I would be furious. I'd be livid if I was Janie.
He explains that it's his girlfriend. He goes, "You know the type, really cute, fabulous red hair, lived next door." And he launches into Janie's kidnap story.
What a monster. Absolutely atrocious.
So he takes a chance and he glances up at the crew that's in the booth with him, and they're hanging on his every word, as you probably would be if somebody started telling a kidnap story.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically doing the first true crime podcast.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah. And those are things in and of themselves.
You're going to love this. So,
no, I already don't.
On to New Jersey. Jody's, you remember Jody?
Wait, there was a Jody?
Yeah, it's Janie's sister.
Right, I forgot. They have the dumb names that are pretty much the same.
Yep, Jody's sister. We assuming there's been a DNA test.
We can just assume. Everyone else in this book does.
So Jody's family has moved into a much bigger house. That's very exciting for them.
How did they get the money?
They had the money. They just never moved because they didn't want to leave where, if Janie ever came back to the house she'd remember when she was 3 years old.
Sure, yeah, because apparently, again, their family is a family of mutants who have perfect 3-year-old recall of memory from when they're born.
There isn't some kind of path you can follow if you find somebody's moved. You can see where they moved to. So
right,
they're still
or
living
they can,
in New Jersey.
leave a note.
Yeah. So Steven's gone off to college. Steven was the oldest brother. And she's super into the new place. There's so much space. She's looked at college catalogs, but it freaks her parents out a little bit because if she looks too far away. He went to Colorado, Steven did, so she feels like she has to stay closer to home somehow, because, I don't know, she doesn't know if that's because
Get out while you can!
Yeah, so she feels kind of bad about it, so she's looking at places that are, nearby enough that she could take a train or something home, but not so close that she's, in her parents' pockets. So she's looking at neighboring states or cities on an easy train line, because New Jersey isn't a top pick for schools, and she daydreams about going to Hills College. Is the name of the college, by the way. That's in Boston.
Not everyone wants to go to school in New Jersey?
Yeah, apparently not. Who knew?
Oh. I mean, again, I have nothing personally against the state of New Jersey, but, much like many other states in this country, it's a fun punching bag, and they appreciate it, I think.
It's because of where you live. That is your direct punching bag.
Yeah, fair enough. And again, lovely people. I know a lot of people in Jersey. Some of my best friends are from Jersey.
But you're going to make
That's
fun
not a
of them
problematic
anyway.
phrase at all. Please, Jersey people, don't hurt me. I know you're very dangerous.
Oh my God. Anyway, she doesn't want to go to school in New Jersey, Sam. She wants to go to school potentially in Boston at Hills College, which is where Reeve goes, because she feels like it'd be cool to have him show her around and, she'd know somebody there.
Sure. I mean, it sounds like good enough school.
Mm-hmm. So meanwhile, Brian, he's one of the twins that I didn't really mention, Brian and Brendan,
they had
I
twins,
think.
right?
Yeah, there's twins, Brian and Brendan.
That she couldn't tell apart.
Yeah. Well, Brian, one of the twins, has made the discovery this year. He's 13. He and his twin are 13.
He discovers he has... I'm not going to finish that sentence. I'm sorry. Continue.
He discovers that he's different than his twin. Like, this is the first year where he's really felt like they aren't having their twin connection. So they had always been thick as thieves. He and Brendan, obviously twins. But
Brian and Brendan?
Yeah.
That's their names?
Yes, I told you that. Like, 10 times.
Whatever. Like, it's like the Janie and Jody. I hate it.
Well, remember the parents did Janie and Jody, Brendan and Brian, and then they wanted to do Steven, and I think Stacey was the other one, but they never had Stacey because they didn't want to have kids after she got kidnapped. Janie got kidnapped.
I'm so glad they never fulfilled their plan for all their rhyming children names, or I guess their alliterative children names, because that's just mean. We want to have enough children just so we can make all we'll do every letter in the alphabet, starting at A, do pairs. All the way down.
Probably shouldn't
52 children. Tell
you that my mom and her sisters all had the same initials.
I mean, whatever floats your boat. I'm not here to tell you how to name your children, but I don't know, maybe pick the name that is going to be best for them, not the one that makes you laugh the most.
Well, there we go. So Brian realizes that unlike Brendan, who's really into sports and got accepted onto the team, I don't know what team, I'll be honest. I couldn't figure out what sports team he was on. I'm sure they mentioned
let's say curling.
No, I think it was like basketball or something. I just don't remember.
Curling, Danielle. We're doing curling.
Okay, on the curling team. So Brendan's on the curling team. Brian didn't get accepted to it, and Brian realizes that he actually doesn't like sports. He's never been good at them. And he loves history and reading, and Brendan would give him a really hard time about it.
So he's a nerd.
He's a nerd, and he doesn't want to mention it to Brendan because he just doesn't want to deal with it. Oh my gosh,
this is so 90s.
And so 13, Yeah. You're like finding out who you are, and you're like, oh no, I'm different than other people. But not really.
Not really.
So, like I said, he's discovering himself and his place kind of without his twin by his side. So he's out shopping with his mom, and he notes that she's much more relaxed than she used to be. Obviously, shopping used to be a really big deal for her because that's how she, when she lost her kid. And she's been a lot more relaxed about it now, but you can tell that she's still kind of like learning that it's okay to not pay as much attention to her kids as she was, used to doing. And they're still trying to learn how to function as a normal family without the threat of kidnapping.
I mean, there's always a threat of kidnapping. It's just not very likely.
And they're older now and all of that, and, they got their kid back. And he realizes a lot of the choices that his parents made when he was little, like putting him into sports, was more to keep him in one place that was like supervised as opposed to, being something he necessarily enjoyed.
Maybe he would enjoy the right sport, like bowling. That's kind of a sport, right?
Sure. Chess.
Yeah.
Maybe he likes chess.
Maybe he likes chess.
Maybe he likes ice skating. Maybe he likes... There's lots of sports. He should have tried them all out.
Yeah, right? Don't just limit people to sports that are curling and nothing else. There's more to life than curling, Danielle.
There is. I knew a curler once. Anyway.
Thank you for sharing.
A competitive one. It was actually a whole thing.
Okay.
Okay. After the radio hour, back with Reeve.
Oh yeah, he's the thing. He's telling his girlfriend's business all over the radio for 100%. Strangers just so he can get attention.
Oh man, it's a rough book, Sam. Rough book.
Is it rough because of like, oh, it's really sad that they're having this falling out? Is it rough because Janie is like, oh, he's totally in the right, like struggles with trying to figure out if he actually did something wrong, which he absolutely did.
Why would I tell you how the plot of this book goes?
Well, I mean, you're going to tell me one way or the other. It's just not going to tell me now.
I'm not going to tell you now.
Okay. I'm just putting out there that those are two different kinds of rough.
Well, it's rough for many reasons. You'll find out.
There's rough like where the red fern grows, where it's sad.
Okay, it's not sad. Like... It's not red fern grows sad. Few things are.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right.
So Reeve listens back to the recording with the staff to his time on air, and he realizes, obviously he gave it a little bit of creative liberty, but he also kind of has this moment where he realizes how permanent it is, because it's, a recorded thing.
On the radio,
on the radio. And this bothers him a little, but he's like, well, she'll never know, and next time I'll talk about something else. Like, it doesn't have to be a big deal.
She'll never know. Oh, that's a great strategy.
So the station manager tells him that he has to continue the story because he only told part of it because it's only an hour, when he was drawing it out.
Wait. How long do you need to tell that? You told this story. I mean, I summarized the story in 2 sentences just at the beginning of this episode.
Well, he goes, as you'll find out, spoiler, he goes pretty in depth of, like, reactions and feelings people have and, like, anything he knows when he was told.
How is he so in the know about all of this? Like, did Jane just sit down and tell him, like, oh yeah, when I first got to the house, I had these detailed feelings. Everyone else around me had these detailed feelings.
I mean, they were dating. I think he was probably her confidant for pretty much everything.
Okay, I just don't know why he would know about, like, Jody's feelings or whatever, too.
He doesn't necessarily know about all those things, but, like, he didn't tell the whole story. He told, like, the beginning of the story. He launched into it. So the station manager tells him that he has to continue it, though, because the phones lit up when he was done, and they got almost 40 calls about it.
40 whole calls!
For a college radio station that's, like, 2-block radius? Yeah, it's pretty good.
yeah, not bad.
Reeve declines, telling him he's super uncomfortable with that, and JD wouldn't like it. And the manager gives him...
now you know he doesn't like it.
Well, here's the kicker. The manager's like, first off, seriously, you already did it. And then secondly, you used her real name. What is wrong with you?
Oh, yeah. I'm glad he's like, what are you doing, bro?
Well, I mean, he's into it, but he's also like, you already made bad decisions. Might as well continue the story.
That's an interesting choice of, like, your sister already's bad. Might as well double down.
That's what the manager's like. That's his whole personality.
Terrible personality.
So he tells him he can't give up now. Something with this much potential to become popular could make or break their radio station. Like, it might get them a bigger scope of listeners and get them all jobs outside of it if it really took off. Basically, if it goes viral, he's, like, in.
You're gonna win the Pulitzer, kid. What are you trying to do? No game is worth your career.
Yeah, he tells him he's a natural. Like, people were totally into it. Like, his radio voice is on point. He could be big.
Danielle, let's hear your radio voice.
This is my radio voice. Everybody hears this once a week. This is as good as it gets, everybody.
So your radio voice is no different than your normal voice.
Yeah, I mean, it might be, I guess if I was doing, like, actual radio and not fun time podcasting, maybe it would sound closer to my work voice on a, phone call when I answer phones.
You don't want to do, like, a... Hi, and welcome to Book Retorts. This is the radio program where we're going to be telling stories about people we don't have their permission.
That'd be boring. That's not why people listen to us, Sam.
No, what to say? It's a different voice.
It is a different voice, but good job on your radio voice. 10 points to Sam for his radio voice.
I mean, just trying different voices. You can do like a shock jock. Hello, it's 4:95 in the morning. It's cold out there. The I-95 is backed up all the way to the turnpike.
You could do that, Sam. You have that high energy and you could pull it off at 4 in the morning.
Yeah, but I have morals.
All right. Anyway.
This is my audition reel. We did your Foley reel. This is my radio audition reel.
Perfect. We're both equally as good at those things.
What we should do, the Frasier episode where they have the radio play.
Yes.
Where
the best
I can
Frasier
do the voice.
Episode.
Yeah, obviously. Where I do the voice work and you do the Foley work, just like
Perfect.
Niles is doing.
We're good.
Perfect. We're doing that.
We're done.
All right, hire us.
Remake of that one Frasier episode.
I just meant in general, like we could do that like team up. You know how they had one person doing the voice.
That could be
and
our
one person
live
doing the
show, Sam.
Yeah, there you go.
Yay.
Fill that stadium. If Rihanna can play the Super Bowl pregnant, so can we. Not the pregnant part, but we can play the Super Bowl.
Anyway, back to Reeve. The station manager reminds Reeve that they have a broadcast range of just a few city blocks, not a whole state. She's never going to hear him in Connecticut, and he can kind of feel himself capitulating.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it's not that big of a deal.
Words can't travel further than the radio can. People don't talk to each other.
They're not recorded or anything.
Uh-huh.
So, as I said...
Podcasting won't be invented for a whole other, 3 or 5 years. I don't know. Somewhere in the 2000s.
That's true. So, back in Connecticut, at school that day, Janie's school, it's lipstick day. Are you ready for this? Oh no, it's worse than you think it is, Sam. This is so 90s. Apparently, everybody slathers on bright, crazy lipstick colors, and the goal is to acquire as many lip prints on your face as possible.
I hate this.
Wild, right? Never would happen now.
And not just because I lived through a pandemic, and that sounds like a great way to spread one. But, that sounds so skeevy. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's super special. So Janie is kind of digging it, though. She's finally feeling like herself again. She's having a good time at school. Her friend had come up with the idea, and so it's like everybody's she's popular, And she's feeling herself again until she gets to a volleyball game later that day. And the yearbook photographer comes up and he wants to take a picture of her because they plan to have a milk carton page devoted to them living through her kidnapping.
Who's them? The other students?
Yeah.
They didn't live through anything. She lived through it.
Well, yeah, but their vicarious experience of, this was the year that we had the woman who the girl that was kidnapped.
They're trauma tourists at best.
And they're putting it in the yearbook. And I don't understand, aren't there adults in charge of the yearbook staff?
Yeah, who would say, this is a terrible idea. You should never approach someone and say, hey, can we put your trauma onto a yearbook page?
They're not asking her. They are telling her it's already happening. And they want her picture for it.
They cannot do that without permission.
Well, they are trying to do it right now, Sam. That's what they want her picture for.
Absolutely awful.
But you have to remember, these are the same adults who decided to have the assembly prior to her.
I'm glad everyone in these books continues to be a terrible human being.
Actually, they're not the same adults. They're the different school. God, they're just as bad.
I told every person in this book sucks. Not just every adult, every person. Like, all the people suck.
It's amazing, really. So she pulls the camera from his hands and rips the film out, which I think is totally fair, honestly.
Valid. Absolutely valid.
So she gathers the attention of pretty much everybody around her. They're all staring at her, and she tries to make a run for it, but Sarah Charlotte convinces her to stay. She says, don't run. Just smile and wait. They'll go. Stare back at them. But don't you run. And so she decides to sit. And basically...
Sarah Charlotte's not good at giving advice.
I think the concept behind this, because we kind of go on to talk about it a little bit.
Don't let them win?
Sort of. She's basically, Sarah Charlotte tells her that she's tearing herself apart because she's always flight reflex instead of fighting reflex. And so she keeps running away from everything, which is true. She's spent 2 books, not dealing with her problems.
She's very avoidant, that's true. You know what would really help her deal with this avoidance issue?
Counseling.
A therapist, yeah.
Nope, you get Sarah Charlotte who says, hey, just tough it out. They'll totally ignore you in 5 minutes. And they do. And she realizes that maybe Sarah Charlotte's onto something.
Terrible. I mean, absolutely awful.
So back in the studio, Reeve can't get over how easy it is to share Janie's story. Stuff that she has said to him with obviously implied confidence, I would assume. And he hasn't told anybody up to this point, but he finds himself saying it out loud. He's just in the zone. He barely realizes what he's even saying.
Stream of consciousness, yep.
Yep. And Derek, one of the other DJs at the station, as I mentioned earlier, is getting kind of jealous because he took over his spot. He feels
so he's going to tell Janie what's going on.
No, I thought this was going somewhere. It really didn't go.
Oh, then why are you telling me about it?
Because it's, an interesting little Derek tidbit.
Fine.
So Derek felt like he was consistent and reliable, and Reeve basically just trashes his girlfriend and gets a million calls, and he thinks Janie sounds kind of great and deserves something better than Reeve, who's using her for radio fodder.
To be fair, this sounds very much kind of like modern viral culture.
Absolutely. It's ahead of its time. 1996, and ahead of its time.
I mean, this sounds very much like those YouTube families that the parents always get caught, I'm going to shut things down because they're basically just abusing their children for views or, exploiting them in ways that are terrible.
He's definitely exploiting her, I think.
Yeah. So this is very much in line with modern viral voyeurism culture.
Yeah, ahead of its time.
Yeah, so ahead of its time. I mean, fax machines? Wow.
So, back in Connecticut, Janie arrives home to find a reporter on her porch. It's one she's seen before that doesn't seem to want to let go. And
of what? Her story? Let her be.
Story. Nope, she's just hanging out on the porch. But I don't even think it's legal. It's private property. Get off the porch.
Yeah, no kidding.
So they love to ask details about Hannah and how she came to be, whose fault it was. The reporter's really bent on
Yes, 3-year-old Janie's gonna remember all that. I mean, maybe she would because she's Janie, but seriously.
No. So Sarah Charlotte, her ride, offers her to take her over to her house instead so she doesn't have to walk past the reporter. But Janie notes that the blinds are all closed and the lights are off, so she has this idea that her mother's probably in there and try to avoid the reporter, so she should go in and, be with her.
Yeah.
So she ignores the reporter, she walks inside, and obviously they're trying to, ask her questions and get a recording from her, but she knows if she doesn't say anything, it won't make a good copy. And she goes inside the house, and her mom's inside. And they kind of just chat, and she pretends like the reporter's not out there.
All right, so terrible reporters, paparazziing her, great. Nobody in this book is good.
Her father arrives at the house, and I guess he's been recently using the internet. He's looking to see if he can maybe find Hannah somewhere online.
Have you heard about this newfangled thing called the internet?
Yeah, exactly that. But he hasn't had any luck, obviously. After one of his shows, Reeve makes his way to a vending machine, having missed dinner, and he runs into a girl who recognizes him. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm the biggest fan. I haven't missed an episode, and I like the one where Janie had such bad nightmares that she had to barricade herself in with the pillows to keep the demons from attacking her spine or toes while she slept. I used to have that same issue when I was a kid.
How much of this is elaboration?
I think that's probably true. Janie was having some nightmares in one of the books, but also that's a really private thing to share on air.
He is not a good dude. I regret wanting to see Reeve at prom. He doesn't deserve a prom scene.
He doesn't. So Reeve feels a little panic, kind of realizing for the first time that he said that out loud. Like I said, he's sort of in the recording zone, I guess.
Is he disassociating? What's going on with him?
I don't think he's to that point, but I think he's like, he knows what he's going to say. Like he kind of plans stuff out ahead of time. But I think he just kind of gets into the story and is like so into it that he doesn't fully realize quite the impact that he's having or the things that he's saying out loud.
All right. I mean, not an excuse.
No, it's not. I'm not saying that at all, especially because he's willingly and knowingly, like, planning out what he's saying and still doing it, knowing that he shouldn't be.
See, I don't think this is that the book is ahead of its time, so much as that people don't change.
No, they're exactly the same. It's just now they have, like, a wider place they can put stuff.
The barrier to entry is lower, yes.
And he realizes that particular thing was something that even her parents didn't know about, but now, part of Boston knows about, so that's unfortunate.
Is he having any reservations, or is he just like, nah, whatever?
No, you get a lot of his internal monologue, and he's kind of back and forth on things. Like, he feels bad about it, but he keeps doing it because he kind of likes the idea of, like, people calling in, and he's, like, sort of, I think,
he wants
drawn to the fame. Yeah, like, he's kind of, like, into the idea that he's sharing the story, and so many people are invested in listening to it. So I think it sort of shows the de-evolution of his psyche into this, like, fame-mongering kind of person that he really is.
That was really quick.
Well, it's still going on. Like, it's not...
Yeah, I'm saying, like, ooh, college radio fame. Man. Really, like, selling your relationship downriver for that.
Well, he's 18, so he's like, first off, he's getting all these phone calls at the end of his episodes, and he's like, people are super into it. Now he's meeting people out in the wild who are like, oh my gosh, I love your episodes. Like, he's being recognized. The people at the radio station are really, like, into what he's doing. They're saying he could be really big, and then this could really make the radio station... Like, he just feels like a lot of outside attention, I think.
All right. He was a hug enough as a child, I guess.
I guess not. He could use some therapy as well.
Everyone in this book needs therapy because everyone in this book is terrible.
So back at the dorm, he was approached by a group of guys, and it turns out that they're the local band that he often plays on his Janie episodes. That they call them Janies.
Assassins?
The Assassin group. So I'm trying to remember the name of. Surely somewhere in my notes I have the title of them.
The Assassins of Boston. The Assassins.
I actually did not write the name of their group. I can't believe I did that.
I assassin you a question.
No, they're not that clever, Sam. I could look it up in the book if you want, but I don't think it matters.
I like that one. That's a good one.
It's something assassins or assassins something.
I mean, the word is in there somewhere. I believe you. There's a word in there. It may have an A in it.
It's like the Violent Assassins or something, like something
lame.
stupid. Yeah, it's not a great title. I thought I'd written it down, but I don't have it in there.
Assassin You a Question is way better.
Yeah, okay, we're going to assume that the name of this band is Assassin You a Question. So these guys approach him outside of his dorm, and it turns out it's Assassin You a Question. And they're the local band that he's been playing on his Janie episodes. And they just got their first gig because of the exposure.
What? Why would anyone hire the band because they're on an episode of a college radio station?
I think he's just like more and more people are tuning in, so they become more and more popular.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought they're like, oh, you're the band on the Janie episodes. We gotta play you.
No, I think it's more like, oh, your band is cool. I heard you on the Janie episodes because I've been listening to them because they're getting popular. So
right, okay.
They ask, Assassin You a Question asks if he can announce the gig on his next episode, and he's thrilled for them. Like, he's excited that his show is doing some good, and it, like, means something to someone.
Oh, yeah. Really, really good work you're doing there, buddy.
Well, I don't know. Assassin You a Question is really excited about it.
Yeah. That's the most important thing, is to help a college garage band get their first gig. That's worth torpedoing your girlfriend's confidence and betraying her trust. Yeah, I'm just saying. Like, oh yeah, this is totally worth it.
Okay, it might be worth that if they're like the next Beatles or something that's like a huge
I don't think it is,
revolutionary thing on music.
Didn't you watch that Beatles movie where the guy stole their songs?
Yesterday? Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Yes, I have seen that movie. It works out well for him. He becomes famous.
Yeah. And nothing bad ever happened to him in that whole movie. He didn't have any reservations. Nothing bad happened.
I mean, kind of.
Okay.
Definitely doesn't. It doesn't really end with him having major consequences for it, to be fair.
Not for him necessarily. Anyway, the point is.
Okay. When he gets into his dorm, he checks his email, and he sees one from Janie. And she's
the email says, Have you been telling my secrets to the whole college?
No, she asks if she can visit for the day. She's, been down in the dumps because she just found out that her yearbook wants to put a Asian face on the milk carton page, and she's like, yeah, I'd really love to see my boyfriend right now.
Let me make a psychic prediction, Danielle. They're going to visit, and someone's going to come up to her like, oh, you're that Janie girl we hear about on the radio being spilled.
I'm not going to tell you that.
Okay, that'd be my guess.
All right, it's official. That's Sam's psychic prediction. Let's find out if that's actually what happens.
Could be very wrong, but...
So... She can't stay overnight, obviously, because nobody would let her. But she could come early, go to class with him if he went to class and hang out all day. And she just, she's had a really bad day and she really wants to talk to him in person.
Everyone to come to visit you at college say, hey, let me go to class with you. Let me just hang on your classes.
Well, she means like she wants to basically skip school and go hang out with him on their Tuesday or something.
Right, I'm just saying, what an interesting choice.
So the idea of Janie being on campus obviously freaks him out. And he's afraid she's going to be recognized because he's described her in great detail.
Again, cannot emphasize enough how much of a betrayal he has committed.
Yeah, it's just wild. And he can't take her to their dorms because a lot of his dorm mates listen, and she'd be too public, like if they went to the student center or someplace on campus. So he decides if she does come for any reason that he'll take her off campus, like tell her he needs a break and they can go explore Boston and it won't be an issue because like the city of Boston's not going to recognize her.
Uh-huh. I'm sure they won't. They will.
So he calls her that night to touch base, and she's just thrilled to talk to him. I guess she hasn't been getting enough faxes. I don't know.
Well, the problem is, Janie, when I fax you, I physically cannot call you. It takes up the entire line.
Why would you choose faxing over literally any other
if you have email, I get it. Faxing had its purposes, but if you have email, it is no longer relevant. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, facsimile machines. You had your time. You were wonderful. It's time to move on.
Oh, gosh, I use a lot of faxes.
Don't you love it, Danielle?
I hate them with a fiery passion.
You think printers are bad. Faxes, man.
She tells him all about her day and like what happened with the camera, and she bemoans that she feels like she's just material to them, like she isn't a person, she's just a page in a yearbook. It's like her normal life in Connecticut is somehow corresponding to the life that Reeve is having.
They are parallel? More like she is feeling all these people are taking advantage of her story, and isn't she glad her boyfriend isn't one of those terrible people?
On the plus side, her boyfriend does realize that he, is doing the very thing that she's complaining about.
And he will not stop.
He will not stop.
Yeah, okay, that makes it worse, Danielle. However worse it can get.
She wants to get away and visit him because nobody will know her there.
What could go wrong?
Yeah. Well, obviously he's pretty strained as he's trying to comfort her, and he tries to talk her out of coming. And the next day, as she's leaving for school, Reeve shows up at her house. So he just skips out and is like, I'm going to go there so she doesn't come here.
He's doing a lot of work to protect his betrayal.
Yeah, absolutely. He knows it's wrong. I don't know if he fully has admitted it to himself, but he knows it's wrong. So his mom had called ahead to let her parents know that he's going to show up and wanted to surprise her, and they're very excited for her. And he decides just to go to school with her, doing it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission thing. He just attends her classes.
Can a random adult just go to a high school with children and just hang out? That doesn't seem right.
He was in high school, 50 days ago. It's not like he's gone very far. Sure.
But I don't think it's, maybe I'm speaking in our modern, post-Columbine era where schools are pretty heavily locked down, but I don't just see some guy showing up and hanging around like, oh yeah, that's Reeve. He says, coming to algebra today.
Yeah. I will say that at first I was like, there's no way that you can just randomly audit a class in high school. But I did once come back from study abroad, and I didn't have, I was in the middle of a term, and so I had to wait for the term to end before I could start classes again in high school. And I just attended my friends' classes.
Wild. All right.
And nobody said, I didn't do all of them. I just did a couple fun ones. There was a film class that one of my friends was in. Yeah, that's me. But I hung out with them in the film class. I wasn't taking math or something, but
sure.
Nobody questioned it. I just hung out. They're like, oh, hi, student that doesn't belong in this class. It is here midterm.
Different times, Danielle, different times.
So at first, my first instinct was that would never happen. Then I was like, well.
Fair enough.
And that was past 1996. So maybe you could get away with it.
Maybe.
So Reeve ends up talking to the yearbook advisor when Janie's at the gym and makes them promise not to put her on the milk carton page. And she tells her about it after she gets out of class. And she's like, that was really easy.
Just talk to people and tell them to scrap the milk carton page. Like, obviously, they shouldn't have had to done it in the first place, but, at least they respected the decision to not do it when you asked.
Crazy. She didn't even try that, though.
Of course not.
So when he makes it back to Boston, he feels this, renewed determination. He's like, I'm going to stop the Janies. I'm not going to do these. He kind of forgotten what it was like to be back home and how it was to be around Janie, and he doesn't feel like that he can do that to her now that he's,
How long is that going to last? 10 minutes?
Maybe. We'll find out. He kind of feels, as we talked about, that he's not any better than the reporter of the yearbook committee. So he decides he's going to tell the station manager that he wants to quit. So he does. He tells the station manager that he refuses to do the Janies anymore. And they don't believe him. But he pushed it, they put the mic in front of him. They're like, nope, it's your time to shine. Let's go. And he pushes the mic back at them in the room where they're trying to get him to go live. And he leaves. And he's like, nope, I'm not doing them. Bye. Peace out. Girl Scout. Time suckers.
No, time suckers, Danielle. There you go.
Wrong way.
Well, he made a brief attempt at being kind and doing the right thing.
Yeah. Well, as you might have guessed, his commitment to not doing a Janie lasts approximately 2 seconds, as that night he runs into a professor who recognizes him and asks if he's planning to do more Janies, because apparently he and his wife are enthralled at having, and they have a little chart where they're keeping track of all the storylines.
This is true crime podcast. This is 100%. Crazy.
And because Reeve's been kind of giving them little pieces at a time, to keep them on the hook kind of thing, as all good storytellers do.
Yep.
So he figures he'll do one more episode because he owes it to the audience to let them understand how the kidnapping happened.
You owe nothing to the audience. You owe everything to your girlfriend, whom you are using as fodder for your fame mongering.
I was really looking forward to telling you this story because I knew how angry you're going to be about it.
I mean, Danielle, I think any decent person would be furious about this.
I know, but I was reading, in your own head, you're angry about it, but it's more fun to have other people tell you the exact same thing you were already thinking.
Hey, Danielle, welcome to the premise of our podcast. Sharing things with your friends is more fun than just have them in your head.
And it is. This is a prime example of that for me.
Great. This is why we do this.
Because I was really angry reading this book.
I'm here to validate your feelings, Danielle. You were 100% correct in your anger. In fact, I don't think you were angry enough. Get madder.
I've had time to digest this, so I was angry reading it, and now, I've read it and written notes about it, and I'm less angry now.
Oh, let me be angry for you then. I'll be angry enough for both of us. I'm
still
going
angry.
to spontaneously combust with how furious I am. Call me the Human Torch.
Yeah, so he's going to do one more episode, and then he'll quit after that.
Sure he will.
Back in New Jersey, Jody makes plans to go visit Boston and check out colleges. She has a couple interviews lined up. And
okay, that's going to go well.
Brian decides to go along with her instead of sitting in on his twins' sports games. Curling games again. Curling,
yeah.
Curling.
I'll give this book one thing. Yeah, it was curling. We decided it was curling.
No, I'm just wondering if it's called a curling game or if it's called a curling
match?
Yeah, what?
Or a set?
What do you say?
I don't know.
What's the word?
Look, all I know is you gotta put the rock in the house, alright? That's my curling knowledge.
So, yeah, he doesn't want to go to another curling tournament, and he's decided he's going to go to Boston instead with his sister.
I'll give this book credit for one thing, because Ms. B. Cooney does do a good job of, setting up potential catastrophes. Janie wants to visit the campus, and
Jody.
The twin, what?
Jody.
No, I said Janie because she wanted to visit her boyfriend. She wanted to go visit him.
Oh, that visit, yes.
Yeah. All right. And then now Jody and Brian or Brendan, whichever one it is, I don't know, wants to go visit Boston. She's doing a good job of setting up all these potential things for it to fall apart, and then narrowly avoided it. So that's fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty good story, actually.
I mean, I never thought that, she was a bad author or anything. I just find all the characters to be infuriating.
Oh, they're all infuriating. That does not stop. That might be on purpose, yeah. Reeve is certainly, I don't think Reeve, you understand what he's doing and, how he's feeling and stuff, but you don't empathize, or I don't empathize with him. I'm like, you're making bad decisions, buddy. You're doing it. You're doing it anyway.
Much like with most, or not, if not all of our media, we are not disparaging the authors. We are merely talking about the characters in a context of real life where characters do not belong and how ridiculous that would be.
Yeah. I would argue these characters are unlikable in a real life kind of way where people are often unlikable, even, if they have friends and have lives.
Sure.
And are liked by people around them. I'm
really impressed that every character is unlikable. That seems like
it is impressive.
Yeah, that seems against the odds of a general purpose for like, oh, if you met 100 people, would all of them be terrible? Maybe. But this is just, I feel like this is really one of the jackpot of jackasses, so to speak.
I don't necessarily dislike any of the characters except for Reeve right now, but I think they make terrible decisions.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if, like, again, disliking the character and disliking their decisions, I guess, are different things, but I do find every adult to be irresponsible and
terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm getting at. Like, nobody, I feel, is making the good choices, and yeah, so.
Yeah, it boils down to choices and decisions that characters are making and what that's part of their personality, because that's really all you have in these books is, like, their personalities or the decisions they're making.
Yeah. So good job, Ms. B. Cooney, for having such a fun book for lots of characters to hate.
I like that you always put the B in.
You gotta put the B in there. I mean, without the B, she's just Ms. Cooney, and that's not as much fun to say.
It's not. Anyway, so Jody and Brian travel to Connecticut to stay with the Johnsons, because it's like on the way down to Boston. And Jody notices that Janie...
They're blending their family. Yay.
Yay. They've traveled there a few times over the course of whatever this was, summer or something. So they've been there a few times, just the parents haven't. So Jody notices that Janie has redone her room and is put off by the idea that she invested the time to redo her room at the Johnsons, but wouldn't put in any effort at the New Jersey house. But she tries...
What?
So...
Wasn't that a shared room?
Yes, but she wouldn't do anything with it. Like, they gave her half the room and she didn't want to do anything with it. And then they had then I skipped a part where they had a whole decision-making process about whether or not they were going to give her her own room at the, like, house, like how many rooms in their new house.
The new house. I forgot about the new house.
Yeah, and so they ended up not giving her own room because they didn't really think she was going to spend, like, a long enough time there to validate that. So she's just
like a year.
Right, so she's just sharing with Jody when she's visiting. But it was like a whole discussion, and so the reason why they didn't give her her own room was partly because she's not going to stay there, but also she wasn't going to put any effort into, like, designing
but also, like, one of these rooms she grew up in.
Right.
So
she's just having a moment. Like, Jody's just having a moment of, like...
Jody needs to get her head out of her butt with this whole thing.
She reminds herself that she's been mad. Like, she's determined that she's been mad long enough. She really wants to make it work, and she needs to, like, let it go and not...
Okay.
Jody does a pretty good job. We just didn't get to the part where Jody had a moment. Jody's the best character. I'm going to argue so far.
I want to apologize to Jody. I was just so used to characters in these books making bad decisions and sticking with them that I did not expect her to have such a quick and enlightened turnaround.
Yeah, other than that part where she got really angry and threw the chair, she's been doing pretty well. I mean...
I mean, that's the Jody I was remembering. It was like the one who's like gossiping to her friends about how much Janie's and trying to like...
She had a hard time at the beginning, you know? But teenage years are hard.
Yeah, so I'm glad she has come around. I did not expect that because, again, every character in these books has remained largely terrible.
Yeah, I think Jody and Janie have some big turnarounds in this book.
Did you say Joni?
Jody and Janie.
Okay.
I might have said Joni because JD and it's hard, but...
If Joni Mitchell showed up in this book, that'd be amazing.
We could just call them Joni when they're together.
Okay, that's a great idea.
So Janie tells her that she and all the siblings are always so nice to her and her parents, and they're like her friends when they're over. And when she was visiting them, she never did that. Like, she realizes that she was like kind of mean to everybody and standoffish. Aww. And Jody suggests, well, like, you could start, you know, like, it's never too late to start being nice to everybody. And
stop being a jerk. It's easy.
Yeah, and that her parents aren't even calling her Jenny anymore. You know, they've allowed her to go by the name of Janie, and they're not like trying to push the old name on her. And she could give them, like, because they gave her that gift, that they're not trying so hard to like indoctrinate her into their family, that she could give them some kind of metaphorical gift, like calling them mom and dad, and maybe that would, you know, make her feel like it was more balanced.
Aww.
Yeah, and Janie, she thinks on it, but she doesn't feel quite up for that yet, and she changes the topic about school and moving to Boston and all that stuff. So, but they have a little moment, her and Jody.
So Joni has a moment.
Joni has a moment.
Got it.
That night at dinner, Jody's feeling very motivated by, like, the conversation they had, and they seem like they're getting along a bit better. She really wants to get to know, like, the Janie that she sees at her house. You know, that's, like, the carefree, nicer Janie. Sure. Wants to get to know that Janie better. So she suggests to the family that Jody come with her to Boston and check out colleges, too. They have a really nice hotel at, like, the Marriott or something, and they could, you know, stop in and see Reeve while they're there. And her parents agree that she can skip school and go down.
Okay.
And then there's this really funny line where Janie gets to sit in the front seat of the car, and Brian's like bemoaning the fact that he has to sit in the back seat. And he says the line, "The longer you've been on Earth, the more front seat you get." I thought that was funny. As the oldest of all the children in my family, I thought that was really funny.
Oh, okay, I see. You're biased is what you're saying here.
I was like, yeah, that's true.
You have a vested interest. I think you have to recuse yourself from the Supreme Court case of front seat getter.
It's true, though, as an older sibling or older whatever, oldest cousin, oldest group member of your family, you often get the front seat because you are the oldest. And they don't get to argue. They have to just go sit in the back. It's like the one bonus because you have all the responsibility, but you get the front seat.
Oh, Bemono, poor oldest sibling.
You don't know what that's like, Sam.
Yeah, cry me a river.
You don't get the front seat.
I do. I did anyway because I didn't put up with that nonsense.
Beat him up and sit in the front.
Calling shotgun, Danielle. You know the rules of the road. First person to call shotgun.
We weren't a big shotgun family. We were just like, I'm the oldest, I can sit front. And they always fine.
Yeah. And this is why none of your siblings like you.
That's not true. They love me.
That's fair. Now.
Then too, mostly.
Oh, there it is.
So in the car, Jody tells the story of going to New York to try and find Hannah, and Janie doesn't understand why they would do that. Because if they found Hannah, they'd have to have like a trial and it'd be on the news, and like, why would you want it? Why would you want to
drag everyone through this? Yeah.
And it's not resolved. They're just, they kind of have like not an argument, but a detailed disagreement conversation in the car. So they finally make it to the hotel for the night, and Janie suggests that they listen to Reeve on the radio because she knows he's been a DJ, but he just doesn't know what she's talking about.
Oh, dear. How could this go wrong?
Yeah, the hotel's not too far from campus, so the radio should be able to pick it up. So they find the station, and they're listening to the Assassinio Question group.
Assassinio Question. Yeah, I forgot. Thank you.
You're welcome. Waiting for his show to begin. Now, unfortunately for Reeve...
Oh, I'm so sad for Reeve. It's such a pity that he gets caught out in his BS.
This is the episode where he decided to say that Janie went back to Connecticut because she only had a limited amount of love, and she loved the Connecticut parents more than she loved the New Jersey parents.
What the? What?
And then he goes on.
Wait. We got. I know you're going to say more terrible things, Danielle. We'll get to them. But I want to address this again. Love is not a finite resource, so that's nonsense. And B, Reeve, you monster.
Right, and Janie did express that in the book. Like, she was like, I don't know if I have enough love to go around. That's not something you say on air.
Yeah, and then she quickly, I think she got over that and figured out how to, make it work.
Yeah, she's, trying to make it work right now, obviously.
Yeah.
Just crazy. And he also goes into the kind of the Hannah story a little bit about it. So he goes on to talk about the evil of Hannah and her story and
evil. We don't know anything about her.
That's what he calls her.
Literally nothing.
Yeah. Well, Jody's incensed. I think Janie's more in shock, and Jody is furious. And,
yeah.
And she says, "I'm the oldest. I have to set an example. I'll kill him." That was the best line. I laughed so hard.
That is legitimately great. Yeah.
Janie realizes obviously that Reeve has sold her out, and she was upset about a page in the yearbook, and here he is over here in Boston, using her for entertainment for the entire city.
Two-faced, no good scum.
Yeah, it's terrible. And Brian feels like he needs to do something, because he's just was trapped between these two sisters. And
Jody's going to kill him. You're fine. Don't worry about it. She's got it taken care of.
No, he calls the radio station on the number that they provide.
Oh, what? You're not going to start a fight with him live on air?
It's not live, so the calls aren't live. They are after it. They're only recorded if they're kind of weird calls, but otherwise they're just...
And this won't be a weird call, I'm sure.
Well, so the phone rings at the station. Like I said, these aren't live, but Reeve takes it, and it's a woman on the other line, not a college kid or even Brian or somebody. It's somebody that's older. And
it's Hannah?
The speech is slurred, like the person has had too much to drink. And Reeve asks who she is, and she tells him that she's Hannah.
No, Danielle, I refuse. No.
So supposedly Hannah, we don't know for sure, obviously, if this is Hannah or not, but so-called Hannah asks him to tell her one thing, but before she can say what it is, and before he realizes he's even done it, he disconnects the line in a panic.
What he's made every bad choice.
The phone rings again, and this time it's Brian.
Yeah, okay.
He tells him that they heard the episode and Janie is with them, and he's like, you better get over here, and gives them the hotel information.
Oh, I'm sure she's going to love seeing him at this moment.
Oh, yeah, Janie's like, what? No, I don't want to see him. Like,
yeah.
Why?
Brian, you're not doing any better with her wants. You're just putting your...
He just thought it would help. So he's panicked, obviously, Reeve. And Janie, as I said, does not want to see him, but it's obviously too late. He's been invited, and this is before cell phones. It's not like you can call back and be like, never mind, don't come. And they contemplate whether or not they should tell the parents about what's going on, but decide it's already been, like, it's too much of a mess, and it would kind of hurt everybody. So they decide not to say anything to the parents at this time.
Sure.
So Reeve's shift ends, and he heads to the hotel unwillingly and shows up in the
I bet
room.
he's unwilling.
He really doesn't want to be there. Jody tells him that he sold them, that he took their story, the hardest parts, the insider stuff, the things that hurt the most, and he sold it. Good job, Jody.
Yeah, you tell him.
And he sort of understands the gravity of the situation, kind of for the first time.
How did he not grasp this before?
I don't know. It's like, I told you, he was kind of living in this world where he was just like excited by the prospect of becoming like bigger and bigger in his field that he loved. Like he was totally disregarding the fact that he was doing this terrible thing because it made him feel good, essentially.
If I had $1 every time someone said that.
So he, like I said, he kind of like finally, now that he's seen the reaction of people, obviously he realizes the situation that he's put himself in and what he's done. And he apologizes obviously many times, but it's too late, it's out of the world.
Yeah, no duh.
And
does he mention getting a call from Hannah and all the trauma that's going to bring up?
No, I bet not. He does not at all.
Of course not. No.
He admits that it just kind of snowballed and he was in love with his own voice and being important, daydreaming of fame, and it just hadn't felt real. So he just kept doing it and didn't fully realize what he was doing, I guess, or allow himself to realize is probably more accurate. They tell him that he's never allowed to speak about it again because they're not going to tell the parents, and he can't tell anybody in the family because they've all agreed. And Janie tells him not to come over to her house anymore or call if they're home at the same time. And Reeve begs her not to do that, to let them speak alone, that he still loves her. And Janie's like, it's not true, because if you liked me, if you even just liked me, you would not have done this.
Valid. And I admit that people can do terrible things to people they love, but like, man, there are consequences for that.
Right, and I think it's totally valid that, whether or not they stay together in the long term, she has every right to be like, I don't want to talk to you right now, or possibly ever again.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, at the very least, she needs her space.
Yeah, and he's just like, no, we can't break up. So Brian leads him out of the room, and Reeve walks for quite a while. He hadn't brought any money for a taxi, and all the public transportation is out for the night. And he finds himself back at the radio station. There's a new hire who wanted to start because of his Janie, so was, brought into the radio station because of that.
He wants to be like part of the Janie story? What do you want to do? Like, he has nothing to contribute.
No, it's not that she wants to be part of the Janie story. It's just that she got interested in radio, listening to him,
okay.
And so now she wants to work.
She's a bandwagon jumper.
Yeah. She's being shown around the radio station, and the station manager introduces them and tells her how the machines work, and, they have all the Janies on tape. Isn't this amazing? This is the guy who did the Janies. Here's all the Janies on tape.
The Janies. Jeez.
And he confides to her and to him, because he's in the room, that they're going to sell them. They will syndicate them to hundreds of radio stations.
Can they do that legally without, I guess, the copyright on that belongs to whom? It's a tough question.
I don't know. Might be the radio station. Maybe you sign your life away when you go on radio. I don't know how that works.
That's true.
So Reeve has a bit of a panic attack, obviously, at the idea that, stuff's not only going to be within a few blocks of here, it's not going to be, in all of, potentially, the country.
Unless he's getting a big cut of that check, then maybe he shouldn't care.
Well, maybe. We'll see what happens. So when they wander off to continue the tour, he steals an old book bag that's on a shelf, and he fills it with all the tapes and leaves. He's trying to figure out how he can quit doing the Janies and still answer the phones, because he wants to be able to, if Hannah calls back, he wants to be able to, take the call.
Uh-huh. Should have thought that earlier.
Should have. But he takes the bag of tapes and he walks over to the bridge that's over the Charles River, and he throws the tapes into the water.
That's not how you destroy tapes. That's how you get someone to fish them out later and listen to them.
Well, they'd have to find them. They'd have to wash ashore, I guess, which maybe will happen in the next book. Who knows?
No, look. Tapes are not robust. They're pretty easy to destroy. You just smash them and tear up the tape. Come on, dude.
Cut some tape, you'd be good. So the next day, the crew decides, the crew, meaning Brian and Jody and Janie.
The radio crew, I got it.
No, Brian and Jody and Janie.
Oh, that crew. Now I was confused, Danielle.
So that's why I clarified, because I realized how that sounded. Decided to go explore Boston.
And they find the tapes washed up in the Charles River.
No. So they only do it because they're there and they can't go home early because they'd have to explain why they're home early.
Yeah.
And they're just like, well, we don't want to go to campus, obviously, so why don't we just wander around Boston? And Brian's kind of excited about it because he was trying to figure out how to convince his sisters to go explore, all these historical sites in Boston. Now he's got a perfect opportunity.
Nerd!
So Jody doesn't want to go to the school there anymore. Just want to go to school in Boston anymore because it's kind of been tainted for her. But
yeah, I bet.
She keeps one of her interviews at one of the local schools. Janie suggests that she keeps it just so she has something to tell her mom and dad. So it's like she doesn't have to lie about every single thing when they go back and they like, how did Boston go? She can like talk about the one interview she had. And Brian and Jody are amazed. What she says is she's like, why don't you keep that interview so you don't have to lie to mom and dad? And Brian and Jody are amazed that she said mom and dad without thinking about it. Like she had included them. And Janie's surprisingly pleased at how she didn't have to think about it. So she has progress, and I'm excited for her. Yay, Janie.
Yay, Janie. Go, Janie. It sounds like a cartoon show.
So she makes it home, finally. She goes home. So it's Thanksgiving break is upcoming. No. Yes. Hang on.
Make up your mind.
Sorry, I was thinking about later. So she makes it home after Boston, and everything at the house, of course, now reminds her of Reeve. And she realizes that Reeve may not have been worth it in the end, but she feels like maybe the trip was worth it because she got closer to Jody and Brian, and she didn't have to think about, her parents calling them mom and dad. So she feels like they kind of had like a moment, a bonding moment because of everything.
Yeah, her siblings stood up for her. They all bonded through trauma.
Yep.
Great.
Yep. So she answers her parents' questions about Boston and heads back to her room. And her parents kind of wonder at her lack of, commenting about being able to see Reeve for the first time in a while. Or I guess she just saw them. But, why wouldn't the girl talk about Reeve? And they're like, well, maybe it's cooling down, like that's what happens when one goes to college and one stays in high school.
Yeah, long distance is hard.
Yeah, and they're, they're a little too close. So maybe it's for the best anyways that they're not potentially together anymore. So back in New Jersey, Brian isn't eating his dinner that night when they get home, but nobody seems to notice. And his parents, who used to be really observant and obviously obsessed with their kids, seem to have turned a new leaf, and nobody seems to notice that anything is off with their kids.
Wait, Brian is the one who went to Boston, right?
Right. So he's not eating his dinner, but his parents haven't even noticed that he hasn't eaten his dinner.
Okay.
And neither does his twin. So he's like, wow, that's like a whole different world here now. And they do mention that Janie's having some problems with Reeve, but the parents seem to be totally fine with that. They're like, well, they were too close anyway, so it's probably for the best.
How dare they have a good relationship? They need to have some separation.
Yeah, it's very weird. So they wonder if Janie's going to come down come down. I'm trying to think we're Connecticut.
When she comes around. That's from that era, right?
Sure. Come down during Thanksgiving break to visit. And Jody's like, well, let me call and ask her. I'm sure she won't come on Thanksgiving Day. Obviously, she'll probably spend that with the family in Connecticut, but maybe she could come down Friday or Saturday or something.
Do Black Friday with us so we can trample some other shoppers.
Exactly. I'm sure.
As a family.
I highly doubt they do Black Friday shopping, given their history of kidnapping. So they have some quality sister bonding time on the phone about how crappy Reeve is, because he is.
He's trash. He's trash. Even if he reforms, you can never trust him again. It's horrible.
It would be really hard to trust him again. And Reeve ends up calling her for the fourth time to talk to her, and he gets a little call waiting, note on her phone. And
you mean the busy tone?
No, he gets she has call waiting because she's fancy, Sam, and so.
Oh my gosh, I never remembered the 90s and all those technologies.
So she gets like cell phones do when somebody calls through, and it's like beep beep, hey, somebody's calling through on the phone, and you can.
Man, technology was so cool in the 90s.
And she does end up taking the call, and he basically is like, I'm having a really hard time too. And Janie's like, man, I don't care. Suck it up, Buttercup. You can leave me alone. Stop calling.
You're having a hard time because of what you did to me?
Yeah, he's a little bit of a jerk.
I'm a whiny jerk.
So Reeve bows out of coming home for Thanksgiving, so that's the upcoming holiday. He tries it with a lie, I have some friends here and they want to do a Thanksgiving thing, and I really love to go with them.
Friendsgiving.
Like a Friendsgiving. But his mom catches on and assumes that he must have had some kind of fight with Janie and doesn't want to run into her. And she's like, that's okay, they were too serious anyway, it might be good for them to get some.
Why is that a theme among the adults? What is going on?
I don't know, but 3 separate sets of adults are like, this was good, they were too close. And I was like, what a weird thing to think.
Absolutely wild.
I'm sorry, she had a good
aliens.
She had a good partner during this very traumatic event in her life that was there for her until he wasn't.
Are all the adults aliens? Is that what's going on here? Are they like some kind of like human zoo and they're the caretakers and they're not doing a very good job of it?
Feels like it sometimes.
Yeah.
But she's like, that's good. He should date some other girls and, get around and see if maybe it's something he actually wants or not. Exactly that.
Gross.
I know. 90s man. So she feels good about him, having potentially broken up with JD, but also that's not an excuse and he's better come home for Thanksgiving or else.
Oh, okay.
So the next day, he has to tell the guys at the station that he's giving up on the Janies, and they guess immediately that JD must have found out. And the station manager doesn't see the problem, because he's like, well,
because he's not a good person.
Yeah, he's like, if you've broken up, then you can do the JDs. Like, the damage is done, dude.
Yeah, but it doesn't make you a better person. Like, there's still, like, the ethics, dude. Ethics in journalism.
No, apparently not. He wants to be famous. The station manager's, like, super set on the idea that this is going to, like, launch their radio station, his career.
He's putting all his eggs in the Janie basket.
100%. And he's basically like, you don't have anything more to lose, so this problem's not a problem. And Reeve's like, I promised I wouldn't do any more. And the manager points out that he didn't keep promises to her when they were dating, so why do it now?
He has some really terrible logic. You were doing terrible things before, so why not just keep doing terrible things? Like, that's not how that works.
Nope, but that's what he's saying. So, to his surprise, the jealous DJ is the one who gets the most worked up because he basically had to give up his hour so that Reeve could, go all in on this, and Reeve became more famous, and he admits that Reeve's a better, DJ than he is, and so he can't believe that he would just give up this spot when he had to give up his own for him, and how dare you, go make me go through all that and now give up.
I sacrificed so you could be famous.
Basically.
None of this matters if the ethics are wrong. Like, guys, ugh.
So he insists that he comes back after the holidays and, starts it up again, end of story. He does not have a choice.
He does have a choice. He very much has a choice.
He 100% has a choice.
And he's going to make the wrong choice.
I don't know. You'll find out.
No, he will.
So the station manager follows him back to his dorm because he's like, no, you're going to do it. You've got to do it. You can't back out now. And he gets the local band, asking you a question. If he's been...
to assassin him, the question of will you keep doing it?
Yeah. Apparently they're about to potentially be signed by a big label, and they need him not to give up because the plan was to do a live Janie at one of the clubs and bring in the crowds that way. And then they would perform at that live Janie. And the record...
I mean, how are they going to get signed if, their music isn't enough?
Well, I think the idea is that the record execs would think that, that crowd was big enough, that the crowd was there for them as well. And so it was like, oh, they're pretty popular. There's a reason to sign them, not just their music. Because they've already been interested in the music, but they want to do a good showing. They don't want, 10 people there at their concert.
This is all very contrived, is what I'm saying.
100%. And also, I love that they hadn't told Reeve about any of this yet.
Right,
he was supposed to do a live for JD, had no idea. So they're just convinced that the more people that are there, the more likely they are to be signed. So they try to convince him that it could be their shot as well, and he can't give up just because it would ruin them also.
Well, maybe you should try to make it on your own, guys.
Yeah. And then the station manager is like, you could be pretty big. You have the skills and ability to be really good at this job, so don't give up because it's your one chance at this career, essentially.
It's amazing how your one chance at this career just involves you betraying the people you care about the most. Yeah. What a worthwhile career in radio DJing.
And so, the narrator of the book, or maybe Reeve's internal monologue, it's a little unclear, lets us know that this is basically Reeve's first encounter with willpower. And he's he's on the struggle bus. He's having a hard time.
I've never had to resist anything before. Oh, man.
No,
peer pressure. What's that?
His life's always been easy. He's never got to do what he wants to. He's well off. He's never had any real problems.
Empathy I had for Reeve is evaporating.
So he does say no repeatedly, to his credit, and the station manager reminds him that he's making a big sacrifice for someone who won't talk to him anymore and isn't going to give him any points for doing it. So, what does it even matter? Which tells you a lot about the station manager.
Yeah, why is he allowed to manage the station? Is he a professor or another student?
He's just, I think, an older student or something. Maybe he's hired on.
I don't know if he was the actual mentor or whatever.
I don't know. It's unclear. I think he's definitely older than him, but I don't know if he's just somebody they've hired to run the station or if it's it's a senior student that runs it. I don't know. Maybe it tells you. If it is
a hired person, he needs to be fired immediately.
Yeah, it's wild.
No.
So even though Reeve's held up so far, he's convinced he'll eventually fall for it. His self-worth will get so demoralized over the holidays because he'll be around his family. And as we mentioned in previous books, his siblings are pretty like they're lawyers and doctors.
Successful,
And he's just going to feel like by the time he gets back that somebody telling him he's good at something will make him submit to their demands. Like he's not convinced he's going to hold up when he comes back from the holidays.
Guess who could really use therapy?
Reeve. Like
everyone in this book.
It's wild, man.
Amazing how they all have this really good understanding of their own psychological failings, but no motivation or tools to address them.
Which would really help if they had a therapist to like walk them through it.
Yeah, like, oh, you're having willpower issues and self-worth issues. That's something a therapist could really help you resolve so you would no longer be susceptible to that kind of peer pressure to do terrible things.
Which you're doing actively.
Actively.
So the other DJ finds him and asks if he's coming to his shift that night, because it's like right before the holidays. If not to talk, on the radio, to at least answer the phones or do some busy work or something, because I'm sure the DJ wants him to come to the station. I'm sure he wants to answer the phones
and maybe hear Hannah.
Right. So he does want to talk to Hannah again, but is afraid that if he goes, he'll end up doing another Janie, like he'll give in. But he imagines the fame and glory of finding a kidnapper, like how big that would be. He's just having kind of a little daydream of like, that would be crazy.
Big for whom?
Him.
Janie doesn't want you to find her. Janie wants you to leave well enough alone.
Well, he's having the two thoughts in his head.
Apparently, the only thing he has in his head is two thoughts, not a single one more.
So he ends up going home for Thanksgiving. I assume he didn't go. I don't know. But it doesn't say anything about it. He goes home for Thanksgiving and decides to corner Janie when her parents are around because he desperately wants to talk to her. She refuses to talk to him, and
Yeah, that's going to go well.
Yeah, and he thinks basically... He's kind of this thing where, like, he assumes that if the parents are around, like, she'll go talk to him because she doesn't want to admit yet that they've broken up or whatever. But also he's convinced that she can kind of ground him or like give him some kind of like resolution or help him in some way. Like figure out his brain. Yeah, like his brain is like so frazzled that he feels like she can
just
help.
Like a man always relying on women to help them be strong.
Seriously, what are you even doing, Reeve?
Behind every great, well, I guess he's not great. Behind every awful man is a woman really trying to get away from him.
Really like, you could do better, man.
Way better.
They go for a drive because, again, she's forced into going with him. And she tells him that she doesn't want to talk, and she's going to tell her parents that he found another girlfriend in Boston, which will explain why they aren't communicating anymore. And he's like, well, I don't want to break up. And also, I just want to...
Not your choice, buddy.
Yeah, and he's like, also, I'm planning to quit college. It's the only way I won't go back on the radio. And... he's like... That's
the only way?
Yeah. Welcome to Janie's head. She's like flabbergasted. Like...
What a man-child. What you ever see in him?
He's like, she's like, you loved selling me so much that the only way to quit the radio station is to quit college. Like, you can't stand up to that.
Amazing. The willpower of a child.
Yeah. And he's like, well, he wants to explain the pressure on him, the anger from his friends, how he couldn't live with that for 3 more years. But she basically carries on and says, you are nothing compared to your brothers and sisters. Like, they're out there trying to do good in the world, and you are destroying the good in the world. And you don't...
That is low blow.
I know. And he's like, and you don't even have the guts to face it. And he's like, consider my virtues, not my vices. And she's like, no, take me home. To be fair, he deserved it a little bit.
I mean, I'm not saying he didn't deserve that. I'm just saying that is devastating. That is a finishing move.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he took her deepest, thoughts.
Again.
Oh my God, I can't even.
I'm not saying it wasn't warranted. No, I'm just saying that it was, that was surgical in her dissection of his ego.
She didn't take the high road for sure. So he admits he was weak, and he says it was like being offered gold. And it was gold, and he was gold, and he'd never had that success before. He'd never had people treat him like a celebrity, or, his parents
Maybe you're earning it, buddy.
Well, his parents always kind of, compared him to his siblings, and so it was like the first time he felt like he had something that was his, and he knew he shouldn't do it, and it was her story that was successful, and not specifically him, but Janie doesn't budge, which good for her.
Good for her. Stand by your guns, but don't stand by your man.
So she realized, kind of has this, mental... processing thought that she's relied too heavily on Reeve during this whole process.
A little bit.
Yeah, she was using him to kind of run her life. Like, she didn't want to make the decisions and didn't want to think too hard about stuff, and she was kind of using him as a crutch. And she had planned her entire life around being an accessory to Reeve because she didn't want to manage her own life in the future, which is dating back to, which is why I told you about the stupid wedding stuff and living on a yacht.
Yeah, I mean, if your whole goal is to be a trophy wife to Reeve, you gotta reassess your goals, man.
Right. Well, it's just because she felt like he could, manage, and she didn't have to do it because she'd been so afraid that she was going to ruin her life with like her parents had done with Hannah.
I get it. They all need
kidnapping.
Therapy. She had codependency issues. He's a terrible person. I get it. All right. They all need therapy. I mean, everything you're saying, Danielle, is just they need therapy in a different way.
I can't help it. That's the whole book.
I just said, I get it. It's incredible how messed up they all are and how much they know they're messed up and how little they do to rectify it.
And even though apparently she's been going to counseling, it does not, it seems to be helping her. It does not even helping anybody else.
Right. I mean, it's like, oh, she's going to counseling, it's helping. Well, we won't send anyone else to counseling. That would be too much.
So he tries to bring up quitting college with his parents later that day, and it goes about as well as you'd expect.
No.
He doesn't tell him why, obviously. He kind of makes up some stuff about it. But they tell him he has to finish his freshman year there at the very least, and then maybe he can transfer. But he's definitely not quitting college.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, we can transfer. That's an option.
Well, it's not like he had another backup plan. He just was like, well, I'll go work at the Minute Market or whatever he was. Like gas station or something like that was his backup plan.
My guy.
So I can see why they buckled down. It wasn't like he's like, I want to study this and I don't have to go to college for that,
Reeve, I know you made terrible choices. Don't compound that making more terrible choices.
Yeah. So he basically tells him that college wasn't what he thought it was going to be, and he's not who he thought he would be. And his mother's like, try harder, which is good parenting, as always. Good parenting. I'm sorry you're having a crisis in your 18-year-old body who doesn't understand anything because you've never been alone in the world. Try harder. You'll be fine. Yeah.
Just, you're not trying hard enough to not have psychological issues.
Wild. Parenting is terrible in this story.
A lot of things are terrible in this story.
All right, so by the end of the weekend, he's exhausted by his siblings and his family. But before it wraps up, Lizzie takes him aside. Lizzie, his lawyer sister,
I remember her.
Takes him.
Again, much like her brother, she assumed she could do things she probably was unqualified to do.
Yeah, I'm very confused because I really believe that in one of the earlier books they mentioned that she's getting her law degree or in the process of it, or is the early stages of being a lawyer. And then they talk about her like she's a lawyer in this book, and I'm like, is she? What is her job?
Either way, helping Janie's complex kidnapping situation, not being a family law lawyer, wildly irresponsible.
Yeah, she's litigation or something crazy. It's nothing related.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a pattern in this family, is what I'm saying.
So Lizzie takes him aside and tells him that she found out that the cult Hannah was in appears to have made their money with drug smuggling prior to dissolving. And I wonder if that's true.
Of course, sure. Why not?
I assume that's probably true. I don't know enough about the hierarchishness to, tell you.
Okay. I mean, what do I know? I'll buy it.
And basically her law firm has been involved, and she happened to get access to some of the files. So long story...
And she found Hannah!
Yeah, long story short, she found Hannah. But Hannah's dead. She died 5 years ago.
So who called Reeve?
I don't know. We'll maybe find out, probably, in future books.
Oh, no!
So Reeve's obviously deeply relieved, afraid that he was afraid that obviously he was about to start something new up with this whole thing, because he decided to go on the radio and tell the entire story. Hannah's death has not been told to the Johnsons yet. They haven't been notified. And she assumes because they may not realize there's a connection quite yet. It's just still kind of making its way down the pipeline.
Okay.
But he's not allowed to tell anyone. She just wanted to share it because she was really relieved about the news. And Hannah was such a threat to their kind of tentative stability that, the family had going on. And she knew she could trust him.
I'm sure he won't talk about this on the radio.
Well, I don't know. We'll find out. Or not. Janie goes to New Jersey for the rest of the Thanksgiving weekend to spend time with the Springs, and it goes well, and she surprises herself by telling her spring mom what actually happened in Boston. So,
wow.
I know, a big step for Janie. Good job.
I guess. I mean, now her spring mom was like, you sound like you could really use some therapy, right?
Yeah, right? Let's go back to that counselor.
Yeah, right? We're going to get you the mental health you need to get over this betrayal and trauma.
They need family therapy.
They need a lot of therapy for all different ways, Danielle.
So the spring mom says, Janie, to go on in this world, you have to let painful things become history. History has a certain beauty. You can leave things there. Your kidnapping is history. Hannah is history. Those lost 12 years in our family, they're history. I think it's Reeve's term to be history.
Boo. I mean, yes. Yay to Reeve being gone, but oh, you have trauma? Just don't think about it. That's her answer. And then make your past traumas into beautiful history is Terrible advice.
Well, apparently it works for Janie because she realizes that she's stronger than she thinks, and it's one of the things that the Spring family gave her. It's like an inherited trait.
Yay!
So she makes it back at the end of the weekend. She catches Reeve's family. They're all leaving after the holidays, and she says goodbye to them all, and then realizes that while she found her strength, Reeve has found his weakness. Like, he realizes that he's not as good as he thought he was. And Reeve bumblingly tries to talk to her, and she realizes that she can't hide from everything and is stronger than that. So the ending of the book, Sam, I'm sorry, is that she takes his hand and tells him that they need to talk.
Oh, they need to talk. She loves those cliffhanger endings.
She really does.
Ms. Cooney.
Well, knowing you have a series, I guess, you're like, well, it's fine. I can pick it up in the next book and not tell you about prom.
Wild. All right, well, I guess that's the voice on the radio. Another book full of terrible decisions. That seems to be the theme for these books.
Reeve, man. You had no personality, and then look what you did.
Well, I mean, here's a problem with all our characters. And, whenever they get personalities, they're always terrible personalities.
Yeah, it's
What's
rough.
up with that?
I don't know, but I'm sure Hannah won't have a great personality either if we ever meet her.
You think?
Which I assume is coming, perhaps?
What's the next one called? Hannah shows up? Is the name of the next book?
I mean, it could be not Hannah. It could be somebody faking Hannah. I mean, we don't know if Hannah actually died or not.
Fair enough. I mean, what's the next book called, though? Is it called...
Let's find out.
The Peanut Butter in the Milkshake. So we have The Face in the Milk Carton. We have the second one I can't remember the name of.
Whatever happened to
Jenny, whatever.
Janie.
And then we had The Voice on the Radio. And his next one, The Static on the TV. The Toe on the Shortwave.
I'm so confused by this series.
What are you confused about, Dan? You're the one.
No, the
you
next
should be the
one,
least confused of the two of us.
Face on the Milk Carton, Whatever Happened to Janie, The Voice on the Radio, and then What Janie Found, supposedly.
What Janie Found. That's not a great title, I'll be honest. Voice on the Radio, pretty good title. These series seem to alternate to be having good titles, Face on the Milk Carton, and then bad titles like Whatever Happened to Jenny and What Janie Found.
Yeah, they're
not a great title.
Crazy, really.
No. All right, well, that was certainly a book, Danielle. I can't believe Reeve had so little awareness and is such a weak little man baby.
I know,
am
just
upset
the
about his
literal
character.
worst.
The terrible. No, very few, if any, redeeming qualities, apparently. He really made that heel turn really abruptly.
I know. I was not pleased.
Yeah, you really liked him, didn't you?
No, I didn't really like him. He had absolutely no personality or, three-dimensional, whatever in the first couple of books, but I was rooting for them.
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll all patch it up in the next book.
Maybe. It's quite possible.
Well, if anyone out there has a suggestion for a story they were told in confidence they want to share with us, they can reach out to us at bookretorts.com. We promise we won't share it with the world.
You can also tweet, Instagram, or Facebook us at bookretorts.
And if you want to support our own investigative journalism to uncover people's secrets they don't want to have broadcast and share with everybody, you can do so at patreon.com/bookretorts.
Patreon!
Caveat, we're not actually that terrible. We won't do that. We'll just take your money and run.
Other than that, we're not terrible.
Not at all. Well, until next time when we find out whatever Janie found, I guess. Maybe it's Hannah. We'll see. Until then, please don't share your loved one's cherished secrets with the world on a radio show for a chance of fame from college students.
Yeah, please don't. That'd be terrible.
Also, we'll be selling tickets and t-shirts for Assassin You a Question at our next event.
If you would like to donate to our Patreon so that we can get Assassin You a Question going.
Yeah, we'd love to do some Assassin You a Question t-shirts.
We'll have them at our stadium show.
Yeah, there you go. If you want to fund our stadium show, you can donate several $1 million to our Patreon. That'd be perfect.
I feel like this is going to be our winner, Sam.
What could go wrong? Well, until then, bye.
Take care, everybody.
Danielle, imagine you were a young child reading these books in real time and having to end on cliffhangers and having to wait
3 years.
How angry would you be?
Pretty angry. Here's the worst thing. Okay, 1990, Face of Milk, 1993, then 96, then 2000, then 2012.
4 years.
Then 2012 and 2013.